What's a bad thing everyone should experience once? NSW. Everyone should experience firsthand how money can destroy close relationships and how quickly it can happen. I was dating a girl who had a lifelong friend with bad credit, like really bad. She wanted to buy a new car, but couldn't get approved for a loan and asked my friend to co-sign. Then it turned out her credit was so bad, she couldn't even use a co-signer. They wouldn't issue the loan unless with her name anywhere on it. So she had the idea, could you buy the car, get the loan, and I'll just make the monthly payments until it's paid off. I told her, do not do this. There is a reason she has bad credit. Well, she didn't listen and bought the car for her friend. Her friend made exactly one payment to her, and the next month nothing. She started ditching phone calls, and then we find out she moved out of her apartment. Suddenly this girl's family, who my friend has known for like 15 years, is pretending they don't know where she lives and has no way of getting in contact with her. A couple more weeks and an envelope with half a car payment. 3 weeks late at this point, shows up stuck under my girlfriend's doormat. Next payment comes due, and nothing. So now my girlfriend is making the payments every month on a car she hasn't seen in months. Her friend who promised to make payments is a payment and a half behind, and it's only been 3 months. The one thing she had listened to me about was she kept a key to the car. So we had the idea we'd find the car and take it, since it was legally and morally her car anyway. So we spent I don't even know how many weeks every night driving around for hours, hitting this chick's hangout spots, friends' houses, family houses, etc. until one night we find the car parked in front of her father's condo. My girlfriend jumped in, took the car, and drove it to another friend's house who was going to let her put it in his garage for a while until things cooled off. We weren't 2 minutes gone before bad credit chick is blowing up her pager. Yeah, it was that long ago, having suddenly remembered her number. Anyway, long story short, this was a lifelong friendship, and this chick barely even hesitated at the chance to steal a freaking car from someone who was trying to help her. I think it's important to get used or ripped off once by a supposed friend. My son, when a teen, would believe anyone, any story, any hard luck tale. Then came the day a friend sold him fishing poles for way too much money and he dropped them off. They didn't have any reels on them. My son was so hurt, and I felt bad for him, but he never forgot that lesson. Be careful who you call a friend. Minor car accident, so that you understand, even if nobody is hurt, how quickly it happens, how hard the cars jolt on collision and how much hassle it is to get through the insurance, etc. It's happened where 2 drivers have driven into me in the past. I drive with real caution for months afterwards and am extremely attentive to the road as a result. Well, officer, a guy on Reddit told me that getting into a car accident would be a good experience for me, so I rammed your car at the stop sign. Take public transportation. I know a crap ton of people who've never taken it. I personally find it kind of soothing, except when I am taking the bus home from work in the morning, i.e. right now. If I could drive, I'd be at home and in my bed. Coming from major cities with great public transport, this is so weird to me. I couldn't imagine getting around by car. The moment of panic and the lingering feeling in the pit of your stomach when you're driving and narrowly avoid what could have been a disaster. Not even necessarily your fault. Things like braking for a deer, or a car not seeing you in their blind spot and changing lanes into you and you have to hit the horn. Something that reminds you that no matter how much time we spend driving and how easy it usually is, vehicles are freaking dangerous and you don't want to get careless. Something that reminds you why driving deserves your full attention the entire time. Working in retail and or food service. Working those jobs really changes your perspective on what is an appropriate way to behave in those environments, and shows you that many people have no idea how to behave appropriately in them. Being in a bad relationship, you quickly learn what you don't want in a partner. If it were quickly, then our relationships would be pretty empty. Sigh. Indifference from complete strangers when you are in a time of need. It seems oddly specific, but can really be translated in many settings. From being stranded and trying to hitchhike home to begging for money for your next meal. Given some time, you realize a lot of people are fricks. A lot are simply ignoring you completely, and some will go far out of their way to help. It helps you be a better person. Being at the mercy of someone else after you've done something to deserve getting your ass whooped. I'm not saying everyone should experience getting bashed, but I think there are a lot of people out there with attitude problems that have never experienced the consequences of their actions. A little fear can be enough to make people think twice before being dickheads to others. Again, I am not advocating violence, but the stomach plunging into your feet because you know you done fricked up by being a tool to someone that isn't having your crap, that I think is a valuable lesson in how not to behave as a human being. Yep. Kept me from relapsing completely after my then so found me about to shoot up and pretty much beat some sense into me. Can still remember the entire ordeal vividly. Failing at something, because after that you'll grow and be able to 1. Achieve more. 2. Use it as motivation. 3. Know that failing is okay. Near-death experience. You never really appreciate the finite nature of your own life until you've breathed what you believe to be your last breath. Then to have the brain go into panic mode, images flashing and a strong inbuilt survival mechanism kicking in, forcing every part of yourself to fight for life to then have it all go black. You wake up exhilarated, like nothing I've ever felt since or before. The air on your skin that you've never realized before. The feeling of air filling your lungs as you breath. The smells and tastes are all amplified. It lasted for at least a year. The urge to savor every little thing in life and see all the previous annoyances as petty and meaningless in the grand scheme of things. It also puts into perspective the sheer terror of death, and I believe it gave me a greater level of sympathy for those that are not as lucky. I think everyone would be a lot less violent and warmongering if they had felt the emptiness of death. Laying a beloved pet to rest. I had to say goodbye to my best friend of 15 years, my yellow Labrador, this past Monday. Worst day of my life. I don't know if I can ever have another dog, as they will never measure up to him, and I never want to go through this again. He slept by my bedside every night, and every night I would reach down to pet him before going to sleep. Now he isn't there. Go hug your pets. Being broke. You appreciate what little you have and what it's like to earn hard-earned money. Probably helps you to be empathetic towards other people that are broke and not just resort to telling them to stop being lazy. Heartbreak. Being broken up with. It's awful, but I think an important growing experience. I remember crying over you, and I'm not talking about a couple of tears and I'm through. I'm talking about collapsing and howling at the moon, but I'm a better man for having gone through it. That brothers. Getting stuck somewhere far from home late at night and having to find your own way back teaches you a lot of methods that might be useful in a bind. In this day and age, it's not that difficult as long as you have a smartphone with a charge. Now if you include the caveat that their phone is dead, then that throws a whole new world of frict in there. Watching someone die. When I watched my grandmother die, I looked at my dad holding her hand. At first I thought to myself, I'm going to do the same thing too. Then I thought, someone is going to watch me die too. It was at that moment that death no longer scared me. Telling someone that you have a crush on how you feel. Most of the time, they will not feel the same. You will feel like crap, and you will get over it, and then you realize that life goes on and that person doesn't have as much control over you. Getting used to rejection is a powerful superpower. Being in a physical fight with another person. Best to do it while you are young. There are much less consequences. It is always scary, but it will help you understand how to handle confrontation better in the future. You will see it never happens like it does in the movies. I am legitimately unsure if I am capable of fighting a human. Right before you both get off, take a really deep breath. The extra oxygen goes straight to your brain and makes your orgasm about 2x more intense. A real life failure. There are some people who can be supported through life without properly feeling the consequences of failure, but until you actually fail at something you won't truly succeed either. A breakup of someone you love. I feel like it teaches you some stuff about yourself you never really realized, but alternatively I feel like you can learn that from losing friends, family members due to really crappy reasons. I broke up with my high school sweetheart of 5 years last year. My fault. Various reasons, and it was tough. Still is sometimes, and I wonder if I've done lasting damage to how I perceive relationships as a whole. I'm in a much better place than I was back then, much happier with my life and where I'm going. But whilst I don't miss the relationship at all, I still feel super guilty about it. live on a service job minimum wage for a year. No parents as a safety net. No rich friends you live with. No big savings account you can dig into if you really need it. Nada. None of that. Hannah. Yeah, I totally know what it's like. My lawyer parents made me wash cars and teach yoga for a while to get real world experience. No, you need to feel a real, present threat of being homeless. Nothing but a crappy job at Popeyes between you and the streets. Know what it's like to run down to the plasma center and sell your blood for gas money. Have to make up excuses to not go out with friends tonight because your paycheck got lost again. Put up with your friends' snide comments when you only eat half your 10 inches pizza and box the rest for home because you'd like to have lunch tomorrow. Know what it's like to have your employment put at risk by some snot-nosed rich teenage customer who decides your service wasn't fast enough. Reading this comment made me a lot less excited about moving to a bigger, more expensive city next year for study. Having an invisible disability. I think people might be nicer to one another if they knew what people might be dealing with under the surface. Invisible disability. Invisible disability. Invisibility would be pretty dope. Delusions of grandeur intensify. As someone who gets migraines, I wish more people experienced at least one so they know how bad and debilitating it can be. It's freaking selfish. Because, deep down I know that I wouldn't actually wish that on anyone, but it's deeply frustrating when you're talking about it to someone or trying to call out from work and you get "oh that's when you get a headache right, lol," or when they suggest taking some aspirin. B. That crap is absolute misery to the nth degree and then some. And Excedrin migraine only works if you catch it in time. Otherwise you're going to be curling into a pitiful ball of whimpering pain until your body either shuts itself down for a few hours, or you throw the pills up and you have to start all over again. Everyone should be poor once. I'm not talking broke, but my mommy and daddy can help, or I can't afford to buy a house. I'm so poor, lol. I'm talking scraping your spilled top ramen off the floor and eating it because you don't have more money. I'm talking your car needing a repair and you have to let it sit for a while. I'm talking about deciding between food and heat. I'm talking about having people who aren't you talk about you as though you're crappy, lazy person who isn't deserving of basic human dignity. I'm talking about watching your loved ones suffer and die because you just can't afford the treatment for the condition. The poor are so easy to demonize, but so few people really know what it's like. Most people on here will probably never experience it, but I think everyone should have to go through it. It changes your perspective on everything for the rest of your life. For men, unwanted sexual advances, catcalling, etc. First time it happened to me I was like, what if Grossy McGrossface didn't leave me alone at a bar and then berated me for being worthless while all her gross friends laughed at me? Eye-opening. Working outside for a long duration in 100°-40°C weather. An air-conditioned call center feels like heaven after a string of outdoor shifts. Went from call center work to working outside in freezing and hot weather. Anything's better than being treated like trash by your employer and customers. People get beyond nasty when they can't see your face, and it's a much worse heck than labor in any weather. I'll take my mental health. A bad breakup from a relationship. Because seriously, some people date one person, settle down and they're done. That's great, but if you don't know what a breakup is like, when a breakup needs to happen etc, when your relationship hits one of those points it will just zombie along or be that much worse as you freak the frick out not knowing how to handle a real heartbreak. I get what you're saying, but if the first person you found is the one, that's not really your choice. Visiting Auschwitz in Poland. It's an awful place to be surrounded by and is definitely not a positive experience whatsoever, but when you're there you get a better understanding of what it was like to be trapped there. You can no longer hear those stupid edgy jokes about burning Jews. It makes me shudder and feels painful to hear now for me honestly, and that can only be a good thing, you know. It's just not funny. Learn from history and be very conscious of what leaders can do to their people. Most importantly though, pay respects to those who suffered some of the greatest pain and depravity the world has ever seen. Living in the dorms at college, at least for a year. It could be great, it could be heck, but it will teach you a lot about adult life and how to handle other people, assuming you're willing to learn, of course. Sleep paralysis. Nothing like a good old fear for your life situation while feeling absolutely powerless to kick your life into gear. A tip for those of you that get this occasionally that worked for me. When you encounter your demon, don't try to escape or get help. Instead, communicate with it. I know you won't be able to talk, but you can think to it since it is mostly a creation of your own mind in the first place. Try to welcome it, befriend it. I let mine lay down next to me and we chilled until it faded away and I went back to sleep. I have not gotten sleep paralysis since. I've learned that if I just force myself to roar, I'll regain control and it causes the demon at the foot of the bed to flee. That moment of panic and the lingering feeling in the pit of your stomach when you're at the park, encounter geese and have no corn or bread, not even necessarily your fault. Things like stale bread or dead corn sold out at Tractor Supply can happen. Something that reminds you that no matter how much time we spend walking around the park and how easy it usually is going down the sidewalk, geese are freaking dangerous and you don't want to get careless. Something that reminds you why respecting geese rights deserves your full attention the entire time. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.